Did any of you translate Erin McKean's talk? For those who haven't, here's a small extract.
Lexicographical is the same pattern as higgledy-piggledy, right? It's a fun word to say, and I get to say it a lot. No.
I would add to that, higgledy-piggledy is also a fun word to translate. In Dutch, I used olleke-bolleke, as in
Olleke,
Bolleke,
Rube,
bolleke,
olleke, bolleke, Rube, solleke, olleke, bolleke, knol.
Luckily, this nursery rhyme is known in both of the major regions where Dutch is spoken. Dutch is the mother tongue of 23 million people, of whom 16 million live in the Netherlands, 6 million in the northern part of Belgium, also known as Flanders, and 400,000 in Suriname in South America. We have an official Dutch language union. So, where's the problem? Dutch from the Netherlands and Dutch from Flanders sound very different. If you meet Johan Cruijff in the morning, and if you're lucky, he will say Goeiemorgen to you. Jip Kleisters will say Goeiemorgen. In subtitling, this is of course irrelevant. So, once again, where's the problem? We also use different words. A Dutchman will call this a klokkromme. In Flanders, we call it a gauwscurve. Last but not least, each group has their set of typical doubts, or deviations from standard Dutch, that occur more in one or the other region. Over the years, the Dutch have lost their sensitivity to the gender of Dutch nouns, and so only a Dutchman might wonder whether a cow is male or female, or so we teasingly say in Flanders. In Belgium, on the other hand, whether we like it or not, our language is influenced by our French-speaking fellow countrymen, leading to sometimes awkward constructions borrowed from French. So, there's the problem. If a reviewer from the Netherlands reviews the work of a colleague from Belgium, she might see a text which she herself would never have written that way, and the other way around. If she starts correcting it, before she knows it, she will be caught up in an endless yes-no discussion. It happened to me in my early TED days. I even confess that for my very first translation, I made sure I asked a translator from my own country to review it, because I felt uncomfortable with a review from the other side. But I quickly learned that if you stick to a limited number of ground rules, you can easily overcome this difficulty. And this is what I want to share with you today. The best way to stop discussions about who's right is to agree on the standards you use. For Dutch, that's quite easy. The official thesaurus, the main dictionary, and the standard grammar are all accessible online. All three are widely used and accepted in the Netherlands and in Belgium. If you indicate from the beginning that you will use these as a standard, you can avoid a lot of tension and discussion. But even if a word exists, it may be highly unusual in one of the two regions. Take the klokkromme. It's a word hardly any Belgian would use. But on the other hand, it's not difficult to understand, especially not in context, as is the case in TEDTalks. There's really no point in replacing it with a term that no Dutchman would ever use. I much rather treat it as a word worth spreading. Of course, if the unusual word is difficult to understand, the story is different. But then again, rather than replacing the word with a Flemish one, I invite my translation partner to look for an alternative that is acceptable to both of us. I would like to end with a few words about what I try to keep in mind when reviewing or translating into Dutch. First of all, I keep my audience in mind. I'm writing for people from different regions. I might as well try to step into their shoes and avoid words or expressions that I know are confusing. Secondly, I keep in mind my translation partner, especially when reviewing. In one of my early reviews, I made the mistake of marking the translation as reviewed without having contacted my partner. After all, I thought I had only corrected some obvious mistakes. Since then, I always contact the translator and invite them to let me know whether they agree with my proposals. Thirdly, I keep in mind that I translate for TED in order to help spreading the interesting ideas of the speakers. It's not about winning discussions with other translators. It's about working together to provide access to TED to as large an audience as possible. Last year, a TED translator from the Netherlands asked me whether I thought we should have separate sets of translations for Dutch from the Netherlands and from Belgium. I told him that to me that made no sense at all, since it would only double the efforts to spread the ideas. It did spur me to get better at finding common ground across the regions. Last but not least, I can tell you that translating for TED has been an immensely enriching experience to me. My closing thoughts are therefore for my fellow TED translators. I would have liked to create some kind of Hans Rosling graph, but you will have to do with a Wordle, in which the size of the name represents the number of times I worked with them. I wish all of you an excellent workshop and an exciting TED Global 2011.